A movie doesn't need to be good or even great to be consequential. It doesn't have to be Citizen Kane or Rashomon or Pulp Fiction or 2001: A Space Odyssey. Sometimes movies are like pebbles thrown into a pond, a very small plop, but lots and lots of ripples go outwards. So let's talk about one of those, and we'll start at the very beginning. When World War II ended in 1945, Britain, who was supposed to have been on the winning side, was stone cold broke. The last thing the government needed was a run on the currency, so they passed a law banning the revenues from foreign companies being sent abroad. If your profits were made in Britain, then that's just where they had to stay. One industry that wasn't happy about all this was the American movie business. You see, 1946 England turned out to be the most popular year for cinema attendance ever. Drawn by the lavish productions, big star names and glitz, audiences were back after the austerity of war. Ticket sales were the highest they'd ever been, but Hollywood's British profits were frozen in British banks. And here's a man who decided to do something about that. If Walt Disney couldn't spend his British box office income in the USA, he'd spend it in Britain. Disney and his distributor, RKO, started up a subsidiary company. Their next movie was going to be made in England, and Denham Studios in Buckinghamshire is where they set up shop. Surprisingly, in England, Walt Disney was able to achieve a long-held secret ambition to make feature films. Now he had wonderful technicians at his disposal, great acting talent, a superb filmmaking tradition, and none of the prejudices he faced back home. When he first arrived in Hollywood, he couldn't get a job in the mainstream industry, so he made cartoons, but he never gave up that dream of being a live-action filmmaker. Since the early 1930s, he'd wanted to make an animated feature based on the Robert Louis Stevenson adventure story Treasure Island. There had already been a silent Paramount production in 1920, then MGM produced a 1934 version, but the box office for that film was judged to have been disappointing, so they sold the property on to Walt. Everyone must have expected this project to be an animated feature film, but moving to Britain, setting up an animation department and training the staff was too time-consuming, too expensive. So Treasure Island, by default, became Walt Disney's first full-length, live-action feature film. Now, thanks to a combination of war, taxes and creativity, he was about to deliver his pet project as a major motion picture.
It's a magic wishing.
As an animator, Walt planned his films in meticulous detail. The storyboard dictated every frame. The dialogue, the script, came later. He supervised the shoot, and that's why they're called Disney movies. Disney put American director Byron Haskin at the helm, and his young star was also to be an American. The part of Jim Hawkins was to be played by Bobby Driscoll, who at only 11 years old was already quite the seasoned performer in Hollywood.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay, my, oh my, what a wonderful day.
Then I'll be king, dilly-dilly, and you'll be my queen.
Why'd you have to bungle it like that? Why didn't you fix his drink?
I did, Joe, but I guess he saw me do it.
See if anyone is in the hallway.
Mom! Mom!
What?
I got something awful to tell you.
What is it?
I just saw a murder.
A murder? Where?
Upstairs, the Kellersons, they just stabbed a man.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Please, Mom.
Tommy? Well, with all the stories you tell, it's no wonder you have nightmares.
Nightmares?
Yes, nightmares. You've had a bad dream. You're soaking wet. Now go on and go back to bed.
The best performance by a child actor or actress during the year 1949.
But, Mom.
Bobby Driscoll. Bobby?
Oh, boy, Pop. Jeez, get a lion, huh?
Well, we might get a rabbit.
Oh, boy.
There was a problem. By employing an American actor in Britain, the production was breaking labor laws. Now, Bobby didn't have a work permit, and he was too young to get one. Walt Disney, Byron Harlan, and the Driscoll family were each fined £100 by the government, and then, nudge nudge wink wink, you know what I mean, Bobby was allowed to stay in the country for a further 30 days, time enough for Harlan to finish shooting his vital scenes before he returned stateside. But there's no doubt that the man who dominated this film, playing the pirate Long John Silver, was one of the great character actors in the movies, Robert Newton.
The whole trouble comes from treating your enemies like human beings. Don't you see, my dear, that if you do that, they cease to be enemies? I'm not afraid.
I know you're not afraid. But you're taking a train within an hour and you're going away. And you're going to take care of yourself.
My lord, Claudius, you're to proceed directly to the Hall of Justice.
What do you want with him? He's never harmed a fly.
We're not here to judge him, but to arrest him.
Can't stay here. Come on.
Where?
Down by the harbor, I know a place. We'll be safe there for a while. We'll find out who the man is through the shop. It must have been there that she met him.
Doth fortune play the strumpet with me now? News have I that my Nell lies dead.
And if you speak a word when we're outside, you'll get a bullet through your head without warning. Top of the morning, gentlemen.
Ahoy, John Silver.
Now, because Robert Newton was born in the West Country and Treasure Island's exteriors were filmed in Devon, Cornwall and Bristol, I suppose he subconsciously adopted a very broad West Country burr as the voice of Long John Silver. So that's where the ha-ha, Jim lad voice comes from, which all pirates seem to have these days. You could say that Robert Newton invented the cinema pirate.
Thank you kindly, Doctor. You came in the nick of time for our kinsman.
Walt was deeply involved with the casting of these films, and he certainly had an eye for talent. The supporting cast for Treasure Island, handpicked by him, bristled with talent. Geoffrey Keane was ubiquitous in British movies. He appeared in 6 Bond films. Finlay Currie cornered the market in biblical movies from Quo Vadis to Ben-Hur. Do you know he appeared in 7 films which won Oscars for the Best Picture? John Gregson was a staple of British cinema in the 50s and 60s. Francis de Wolfe was every cinema-goer's favourite overbearing baddie. Sam Kidd, well, let's just say Sam Kidd, with 240 films under his belt, was in everything. John Laurie, a jobbing actor for decades, he finally became a household name as Private Fraser in Dad's Army. And of course, Patrick Troughton, the second incarnation of Doctor Who. Treasure Island was shot between the 4th of July and the 11th of November, 1949.
It's gone!
Gone? Pig! Rip it up, you swabs!
By all accounts, it was a happy and efficient experience for all. But was it a great film? No. Was it a good film? Yes, it was fun. So if it wasn't a great film, just a good film and a fun film, what makes it so consequential? Well, let's go through the points one by one. First of all, Disney was interested in the profits. By the way, it made a profit. It cost about $1.5 million, and it made $4 million worldwide, so he was happy with that. But what it did was it unleashed him from this he's the cartoon guy image that he had. He was now making feature films. Walt made 3 more films under the RKO Disney British banner. All starred Richard Todd and featured James Robertson Justice.
Beat me with bowstrings if I dispute any more bridges with you.
Mary!
Yes?
Come forth and receive the ambassadors of France. I command you! You hear?
Well met, brother. Come in, gentlemen. I will arise at once and receive you all, informally.
And the 3rd film, Rob Roy, was chosen as the Royal Command film on the Queen's coronation year.
Filmland's biggest and brightest names gather at a cinema in London's Leicester Square for Coronation Year's Royal Film performance. Escorting his wife is Richard Todd. He's one of the stars of the Royal Film, so is diminutive Glynis Johns. James Robertson Justice is resplendent in full Highland dress for this royal occasion.
From the high point in 1946, mass-market cinema audiences slowly drained away. The French New Wave made intellectual films for a niche market, incomprehensible to the average man and woman.
For your own sake, don't ever do that again. I have no public school scruples about hitting girls. If you slap my face, by God, I'll lay you out. Come out of it quick, eh?
Angry young British filmmakers raged against the status quo.
I want you to go! I want you to go!
She is my dear, my darling one, my smiling and beguiling one. I love the ground she walks upon, my darling Irish girl.
Walt's optimistic retelling of traditional stories, and some new ones, were a refreshing contrast. The live-action feature films made by Walt Disney during the 2 decades from 1950 to around 1970, many of them made in Britain, stood out as wholesome entertainment. Walt's optimism was unfashionable, and even as his rivals' audiences turned away from cinemas and increasingly to television, he re-edited his feature films and then showed them on his own TV show.
It's Adventure Night, Treasure Island.
When I come back, I'll have a crew and you'll have a pistol.
You mean to keep?
That's my meaning, lady.
We'll return after these messages.
Meanwhile, director Byron Haskin and Robert Newton hadn't quite finished with Long John Silver yet. They took him to Australia and produced a sequel.
Yes, the lusty, brawling age of piracy is excitingly recreated with Long John Silver, the scourge of the seven seas.
And then there was a TV show.
Now listen, keep as silent as the grave. A whisper out there on the water at night will sound like a cannonade. Now to Beard the Spaniard.
And by that time, Long John Silver was no longer just a character, he was a brand.
All hands on deck!
For better or worse, Treasure Island unleashed a slew of pirate movies over an unsuspecting public. There'd always been a steady drip of these films, but now a lot of swash got buckled in Hollywood. Here's John Derrick.
All the longboats are gone. Hurl, Brenner, Grip, get some buckets and follow me.
My greetings to all you pirates of the coast.
Former Tarzan Lex Barker. And Charles Lawton playing Captain Kidd for laughs.
Hands aloft, please. You're the prisoners of Captain Vallow and his scurvy crew.
Well, I did say for better or worse. And I even caught Robert Newton himself, double dipping, as Blackbeard the pirate.
Little Robin Redbreast. I be a great lover of nature. However, we'll go into that later.
If I had a pistol, I'd shoot out your gizzard pin.
I'd like to say a word too about poor Bobby Driscoll. He died young, he had a very unhappy life, but he left, along with Jim Hawkins, another iconic figure to be remembered by.
Over there, Tink. And it's Dan.
One of Bobby's last jobs for Disney was as the artist's model and the voice actor for Walt's animated feature, Peter Pan.
Where is that villain, Captain Hook? I'll slice him up and throw him to that crocodile.
Director Byron Haskin's career led him into science fiction. Ironically, his greatest success was co-producing the failed pilot of the series Star Trek.
Check the circuit.
Alcohol abuse claimed Robert Newton at the age of only 50. His last movie was this blockbuster.
I'm in pursuit of a very cunning, very slippery criminal.
And I think everything in Disney's final masterpiece, Mary Poppins, began in 1950 with his fateful decision to make a pirate movie in England.
When you're with Mary Poppins, suddenly you're in places you've never dreamed of.
You've got the word of Long John Silver. Shipmates.
Treasure Island promoted the careers of dozens of actors and technicians. It was the prototype for the pirate movie as we know it, and the cornerstone of the Disney legacy of live-action movies. So that's what I mean by consequential. Look at the things that came out of a simple decision by the British government to tax profits.